Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. I only wish that I had have hit record about an hour ago so you guys could have heard the conversation that Tim Love and I, the CEO of Alltrust, were having. We solved all the world's problems, and unfortunately, we can't do that again. But welcome to the show, Tim.
Thank you, Sharon. Good to be here.
So good to see you. So good to talk to you. We are talking all things, well, really just all things. I mean, how could we not have a discussion about how we're doing as humans going through a global pandemic and all the racial unrest and the political warfare, and we're still here, Tim.
I know, and we went from that to monks,
Yes.
to mental health, to physical health, and everything in between, like how we calendar our day and how we start our day. And
it's so true. The last thing I said before I hit record was monastery. So that's the kind of relationship that Tim and I have, which is so fantastic. But as any of you watched my interview with Joe Part, this won't be like it. Number one, Joe was, I think his dogs were being distracted by the bears walking through his backyard in Asheville. But it is through my friend Joe Part that I was lucky enough to meet Tim. And Alltrust, of course, has been the only place that I've ever referred any employer for their healthcare benefits. So, Tim, just to give the audience a little hope that this might be about the business of medicine, why don't you tell them a little bit about who you are and who Alltrust is?
All right, thank you, Sharon, and I appreciate the comments. And so Alltrust, you know, we have been around for about 25 years. We do one thing in terms of the insurance business, and that's employee benefit plans. And what we found is it's hard to talk about health insurance and the return on investment and all of those things if you don't look at the company somewhat holistically. So we've gotten into things like HR consulting. We've gotten into the world of technology relative to benefits and payroll and benefits administration. And then really, you know, kind of diving deeper into their employee population, the disease state, and the population health management, claims tracking, and all of those things related to the health of a business. And we mean that both in terms of the bottom line as well as the health of their employees. So really understanding that those two are interconnected.
Wonderful. You know, I've had a 16-year relationship now with Alltrust.
Yay.
I know, it's a long time. And when I was working for an IPA back in the day, and then left there to run a pediatric practice, I didn't bring many things with me, but I did bring Alltrust. And
thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And I'll tell everybody why I recommend Alltrust, and it's never changed. I could probably name at least 3 or 4 people that work within the company that are still there. I'm not even if there was a pandemic that went through, I'm still pretty sure all of them would be there. There is an extreme focus on excellence in customer service. So I knew that if I referred Alltrust to a client, to a physician group, whoever it might be, I knew that they were going to be taken care of, and I wouldn't get that phone call like, who are these yahoos you referred me to, Sharon?
Yeah, no, well, thank you. I mean, we take a lot of pride in that. I think our service team has an average tenure of 12 years. Our sales team is actually higher than that. And, you know, the soft skills of caring kind of permeate the organization. And we talk a lot about, you know, being a family here amongst ourselves.
Is there something else I can help with?
Yes, you can actually.
Moral of the story is don't put Siri in your pocket.
I love it.
And so that family experience or culture, it permeates the organization, which becomes a natural extension to clients. We take it pretty seriously about how we treat customers, and making sure that we're living up to their expectations. You know, insurance is expensive. You should get good service for the cost of it. So thank you. We appreciate that.
No, 100%. And I swear, Tim didn't ask me to say any of these things, nor is he paying me, although we'll see. No, I want to talk about this, the relationship connection, because I do think that this is certainly a big piece of what Alltrust believes in. It falls in line with what I believe in, and that it really is all about your relationships in business. I remember when I read the book Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi, and I was given, as a matter of fact, Tim, Rita Lohman gave it to me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Rita gives it to me, and I read the book on a flight to Chicago, and I think it's the greatest thing I've ever read. I call Joe. I'm like, Joe, you got to get this book. And he starts cracking up. He's like, where the hell have you been? I read that book and gave it to all of our employees years ago.
Yeah.
So, but the basis of that book is really like your relationships and how your community can build you up. And you guys have been pillars of our Tampa Bay community and beyond for so long now, and you're so involved with charitable organizations and philanthropy. I know myself, when I have clients in Sarasota, I call Steve Hall and I say, who can you connect me to here? And then he introduces me to this one and that one. And that's how business works. So how does that work in your organization?
Yeah. So a tremendous amount of it is the hiring practice. So, you know, if you want to hire for technical skills, you get one type of person. But if you want to hire for attitude and aptitude and enthusiasm and folks that kind of, for lack of a better term, fit your tribe, and your culture, then you hire those kinds of people, and you either train them up if they don't have the technical skills, or you create an environment where there's a team to help and support them around those technical skills. But we look for our people, and we look for people who have this great compassion and caring. They have a broader sense of community, and understand that what happens inside our four walls is really, really important, but it's also really, really important what happens outside of our four walls, and that we are dealing with people a lot of times when they are at their most vulnerable. So people who are calling our office are not always in the best day of their life, right? So a lot of times they're calling us when they're having their worst day of their life.
Right.
And so understanding that compassion component, and then people who hate to lose, and that competitive nature is really critical for providing high level customer service. And so a lot of times we're interviewing people and just saying their spirit is wonderful, and we've got to have them as part of this organization. We'll figure out where they go, and we'll figure out what to do with them. But they're just super compassionate yet competitive people, because we do deal with people when they're in their worst situations sometimes.
Totally. And, you know, so I was in my previous life a practice manager. So one of the many things that I loved about Alltrust was that I knew presenting the new insurance plan to the employees was the death of me. Because for whatever reason, they thought it was my fault that the deductible was so high or the copay was too high. So what I had the opportunity to do was have Alltrust come in, and now maybe it's virtual, I would assume.
Yeah.
And explain the benefits to the employees, and not just explain them, but like listen to them and let them ask questions, because I think a lot of people don't really, well, I know a lot of people don't really understand health benefits. I know this for a fact. I know that people don't know the difference between an EOB and a bill, between
Yeah.
insurance and a copay and a deductible, and it can be very confusing. And what I'm sure you've encountered yourself is that instead of being vulnerable, people will, talk from their ego. I mean, I'm not talking about doctors here, guys. I'm just saying they might not understand it. But what Alltrust would do would just be to explain it from the bottom up, and then did all of the comparisons to suit our practice's needs. So, I always talk about, like, I got a guy. I feel like that's what I have in Alltrust. Like, I got a great website company. I got a great Thai technology to handle the televoice system. And I got a guy at Alltrust. And it might be a girl.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate that. And you used the term when we were fixing the world before.
Yes.
That is a great term, and it applies here, and that's meeting people where they are.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to do to be successful in our business. And no two people are alike, no two businesses are alike. So you really do have to meet people where they are. And it's been actually fun, if you can say that, with the pandemic, to get creative and find new ways to do that education and communication and this type of experience with employees, where you can literally talk to them screen to screen, and they may open up a little bit more because they're not sitting in a crowd of 200 people with their HR person right in front of them, or and creating video explanations of benefits and digital, sheets on what the benefits are and how to access them better, and how to educate yourself on benefits, or even healthcare.
Yeah.
We've got a pretty complicated healthcare system in this country, and a lot of people get kind of caught in the hamster wheel of where do I go, who do I ask? So we really think the pandemic, in a lot of ways, helped us get creative in finding new ways to communicate with people about that. And it's been fun watching it evolve, actually.
Yeah, and I also used to love when somebody in my office would come to me and say, hey, listen, I've had this issue and I got a letter from the insurance company and I don't really understand it. I'm like, well, we'll just send it to Alltrust. We'll figure it out for you. And really, it was a huge, for somebody who really has empathy for the practice manager of an organization that is really doing so many things besides the dreaded November, when we have to think about our employee health benefits again.
Right.
Make sure that we get the best plan for our staff. You're really like a partner. You guys are really like a partner in helping us through that situation. So I couldn't recommend you enough.
Well, thank you.
I'm done with the ass kissing. Okay, Tim, let's move on. So it's all true though. I really want people to know that we did have this conversation that I'm going to bring up now, before, when we were solving all the world's problems, about more organizations offering mental health benefits. Have you seen an uptake in that over this course of this pandemic?
It's undeniably been more top of mind. Employers are absolutely starting to look at it, or have been looking at it. It's unfortunate, given all those legislative issues that have been brought forth, like the Mental Health Parity Act, where it is legislated that you treat mental health and like any other illness. But I think the pandemic really drove home the importance of looking at employees and their families holistically. And if there is a silver lining in the pandemic, it has been that people are starting to understand that these things are connected. And when you send people home and you isolate them, or you tell them they can't come to work, or they can't go to the grocery store, or go out and socialize with friends, what the pandemic did is it exacerbated underlying issues. And so we saw a 34% increase in prescriptions around depression and anxiety. We've seen domestic abuse go up dramatically, sexual abuse, domestic violence. All of these bad indicators go up. And so it really pushed it to the forefront for employers to understand that having a reactionary, potentially an employee assistance program that they've never really evaluated, and they're probably not spending a lot of money on, it's really forced them to look at this and understand that their employees have to be the highest version of themselves to be their highest version as an employee. So that's a very long-winded question, answer to your question, Sharon. But yes, it is very top of mind for most employers.
Well, I'm glad that it's taking up a large portion of our conversation, because I do think it's that important. And any opportunity I get to talk about my father's EAP counselor saving my life. You know, I was 21 years old. My dad was going to see this EAP counselor at New York Hospital. He really trusted him. He really liked him because he was dealing with his daughter, who was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and he didn't know what to do. I was suffering terribly from depression. I went to see this EAP counselor, and he asked me if I was having suicidal thoughts. I said yes. And it was the end of isolation for me. And from that moment on, from 21 until this very day, I have yet to go back to that life. And he was a huge, huge part of that. So to know that people are taking more of an interest in that within our corporate organizations, it just makes me feel fantastic. I'm so grateful to hear that news. Can you tell everybody, Tim, about this EMindful app that you mentioned before?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely, in order to try and address that, we really looked at how do we go to, you know, large numbers of employees and say, we've got something for you, and trying to meet people where they are. We decided the best way to do that in a pandemic was through a technology-based health and wellness application focused on mindfulness and allowing people to have access to this unfettered. So we went out and vetted a bunch of different companies, and we landed on a company called EMindful, and we bought a license from them. It was the first ever licensing deal in this space, and we pay them an annual fee, and we give it free to every client of ours, and they can give it free to every employee, the families of employees, the part-time employees, you know, anyone in their organization can have access to this app. And what EMindful does is it's a mindfulness practice with a lot of different categories. So there's resiliency, there's sleep. During 2020, they did one on social justice. They did, you know, mindfulness practices on the pandemic. And it's kind of like the Peloton of mindfulness. So they're anywhere from 10 to 35-minute sessions. Some of them are live, and you can sit and just like we are and see your instructor, and they'll walk you through a mindfulness practice. But they also have thousands of sessions in their library that you can listen to at any point in time. And it's really about allowing people to step away from what's going on in the real world, refocus, re-energize. You know, if they've got issues with smoking, there's a smoking cessation program. And really disconnect from all the chaos and craziness, refocus, and become the highest and best version of themselves.
Love it. I love that you have that. And I love that it's being offered. I think it's such a huge benefit, especially when companies can't afford to bring on the EAP. It's certainly a great alternative. So Tim, I know that you have another meeting to go to, but before I let you go, I have a question for you. You ready?
Yeah.
Tell me what 2020 taught you.
That's a great question. And the ability to say no. The ability to say no. it really, and I'm going to carry that into 2021
Mhm.
because we all didn't have to commute as much. We didn't have to go to as many physical meetings. We didn't have to go to as many obligatory meetings. And it was, if there was anything positive out of 2020, it was the ability to appreciate and understand that free time and what that did for me personally. So I'm going to be a little more selfish in 2021, and I'm going to say no.
I love that.
I'm going to say no.
Don't forget that whole just say yes. Just say no.
Yeah.
No, I think it's great. I really appreciate all that you do. I know how much you do for the community as, board of directors at the Outback Bowl. You're very involved with the Tampa Bay Sports Commission, and you do a lot for the community. We appreciate that here in Tampa Bay, and we
Thank you.
appreciate all that you do for all of our companies that need the right guidance when it comes to employee health benefits. So Tim Love, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Sharon. Good seeing you.
Good seeing you.
Take care.
Don't forget, if you mention that you have seen the show or listened to the podcast, Thai Technology, 3 months for free.